and he was just trembling like a leaf. So my mother said, what in the world? So he said, the Ku Klux are after me. And he said, I jumped out of my car and came down. So he told us where he come. He said, they're circling the block now. They're looking for me. And he said, if you turn on the lights, they'll know I'm here. And they might come in here. So my mother said, no, they're not coming in here. So the three of us stood and looked out my living room window. This was 1961. And you could actually see them, like three in the back seat, two in the front seat. And you could see their hoods over their faces. It was one of the scariest experiences I've ever had in my life. You could see them when they came into our block, the car would slow down and they would drive slowly. They came around, as I remember, maybe 2 or 3 times, and they kept circling and circling. And my mother went and got her gun. She had a gun. My father died when I was 6 years old, and we had been in our house, maybe a brand new house at that time. That area at that time was the suburb of Atlanta. And my mother had a gun in her drawer, in her chest of drawers. She went and got her gun and came back to the window. She said, if they come here tonight, she said, they will not leave here tonight, not whole. And we stood, the three of us stood, and John, and John was just trembling, and we stood and looked at him and watched him drive around. So eventually they stopped driving. So John told my mother, he said, would you call the SCLC office and tell them what happened? So my mother went back to the telephone, and she called SCLC office and gave us the number. And they told her, do not turn the lights on. Don't call the police. And they said, don't call the police because the police are in with the Ku Klux. That's what they said. And they said, but keep him there. And as soon as daylight comes in the morning, you call us and we will come and pick him up. And said just be very, very careful and watch your house and be sure that nobody's coming. My mama said, believe me, nobody will be in my house tonight. If they come, they will not go back. So I actually, I had to go to work that morning. John sat on our sofa. I sat there with him for a while, and he was trembling. And he dropped off to sleep, and so I went back to bed. And when I got up the next morning, I got dressed to go to work, and I was riding with a lady who lived around the corner. And my mother was driving, was going, so she called and told her school she would be late. And I went on to work, and she stayed until the people at the SCLC office came to our house and picked him up. And that was one of the scariest incidents.
Now, you've had another Ku Klux Klan incident, go ahead and zoom the shot out, involving Frank Holloway. I think you called me back on my cell phone, and you said for me to remind you to tell you the second story.
No, that wasn't Frank Holloway.
And it might not have been Frank Holloway, but you said, but you called me back.
I did. I thought about it. I told you, you've taken me back 50 years. And I thought about it, and I told you because I knew I would forget it. You forgot what I said?
Will you turn the camera on, please, and I'll